Sometimes it comes up with the volume on, sometimes it doesn't. I mean.
So the content of this meeting is being sent to one or more apps. Message I'm getting on my computer. Which is okay, so I can click on okay.
Yeah, we're live on YouTube now.
Okay. So we can go ahead?
Yep, you're all set.
So we can call the meeting to order. And I will read the land acknowledgement at the beginning of our agenda. I hope you can hear me. I acknowledge with respect that we are in Robinson Huron Treaty Territory, and the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Boating. Boating is the home of Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, and the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. Okay, number 2 on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes. And that was our meeting on April 2nd. And could we have a mover for the minutes? Is that Sunny? Yes. Sunny's moving it, Virginia.
Okay, thank
We
you.
need a seconder.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Jamie.
Do you want to second the minutes of the April 2nd meeting?
I think Sarah.
I can. I was there, Sarah.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Sarah. Sorry, Alex. This is an experiment in my parliamentary skills because I've never chaired a meeting over Zoom, but I have a cold, so I'm sitting at home. So the meeting, should we vote on the adoption of the minutes?
Yes, please.
And show of hands or a thumbs up or whatever you can manage. I would say that it carried. Oh, what a meeting.
Sorry, folks. Before we go forward, I see someone joining us on our meeting on Zoom. Oh, is everyone else getting the emergency? No, I guess that's at the end of lunch. But iPhone, who is iPhone on our meeting today?
That is Sunny Spina.
Sunny, okay, awesome. Good to have Sunny. Okay, thanks.
So we have on Zoom, we have myself, Sunny, Hannah, Sarah, and Alex. And then Virginia and Lisa are in the room. And there's a third, Virginia, who's with you at the table?
Angela, Sal, and Lisa are here.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 3, declaration of pecuniary interest. Hearing none, we can move, we can look at the agenda. And does anyone have any additions or changes to the agenda?
We did.
Go ahead, Anna. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. We did have a change with the bell, and I saw that it wasn't on the minutes, so I would like to add that in if we have time at the end.
It's 5.1 on my agenda.
Oh, did I miss it?
Yeah, business arising.
Yes, I did miss it.
Okay. Thank you for keeping it on the agenda. Alex, did you want to say something?
I was able to find out a little bit about 8.1 13 Summit, the Mr. Bridge. So I've got some information there.
Oh, good. Okay, 8.1. That's good. So could we have someone to move adoption of the agenda?
Please and
oh, good. Thank you. And could we vote to approve the adoption of the agenda? And I see some hands up on my screen, and that looks like it carried. Excuse me. So we're on to number 5 here, business arising. And Hannah, did you want to speak to 5.1? Museum bell?
Sure. So, we had a couple new instances of graffiti
Oh,
uh,
no.
on the bell as of last week. So I've been informed by Will at the museum that the cost for the restoration has gone up now, a smidge. I'll get you updated numbers on that. But that number will change. Um, they also were discussing at the museum the possibility of potentially moving the bell back to the roof to mitigate any future instances of graffiti. I'm not entirely sure what the cost difference would be there, or how that would change our current plans. But that's something that I can also look into further.
The, just some background on that, when the roof was replaced at the time, the engineers had made the recommendation not to have it installed back up there.
Correct.
So if that's a direction, we'd have to look at engaging engineers again.
That is
to-
correct.
Yeah, to see if that's even an option or what that could potentially entail.
My understanding is that that process would likely be pretty cost prohibited. It's yeah, it would be a much larger job to move it onto the roof versus creating a new housing outside of the museum. But if the museum wishes to look into all options, I can see about potentially finding out that information as to how much it would cost and whether or not it's actually a feasible thing to do as well. Because, like you said, I did read in the report that the engineers were not recommending it go back on that previous location.
Mhm. I've only been listening to this conversation and not contributing to it, but at one time there was a discussion about if the bell could be moved into the interior of the museum, and I think there was a engineering opinion being brought on, like moving it into the foyer or the first floor somewhere.
Yeah, they'd also, if you moved it inside due to the weight, they'd have to double check to make sure it can support the weight. But then also, I know in many cases, because of the way the museum operates, they have movable display units and cases so that they're able to use the spaces in different ways and shift those displays. That would end up being a permanent installation, so not sure how that would impact operations and their ability to be able to be flexible to accommodate the different types of events that they're doing. And Hannah might be able to add more onto that, but
Yeah, so based on the size of the bell, putting a foyer would be sort of out of the question because it would impede accessibility. You wouldn't be able to get through there with a wheelchair or a walker. I'm not entirely sure. I would have to discuss that with Will to see if it would be feasible to put it anywhere else. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think that's an option. But again, I can look into that further.
yeah, that's my understanding as well, Hannah, that is not a preferred option for the museum and their operations, and then again, involving engineers. Be able to address that as well.
Okay, so this will come up on our business arising at our next meeting. Does anyone else have a comment on the museum bell? Okay, number 6 is our subcommittees. So 6.1 is the heritage booklet and video tour. And Virginia, did you want to speak to that?
Yep, so I received some edits from Elise a couple weeks ago. So I have that, or at least a couple weeks ago in that package. Jamie, you have a hard copy that you're also looking at right now.
Yeah,
And
I'll give you edits tomorrow before I leave town.
okay, perfect. And then the next piece is adding in a lot of those photos, and Alex had reached out to Joe, so we've got a number of photos. It's now sitting down to determine which ones we want put in. Once we have those photos, we're gonna have a much better draft for the committee to look at, because then we can start moving everything around. So right now, Josh wants to make sure all the content is good. The photos are good, and then from there, he'll start to organize the brochure into where everything will be as far as it's laid out, because if the text changes, it could change the whole layout of a page. So right now, it's just getting all of that info in, and then we'll tweak it where everything sits after, so. I think once we've got that, then we can call another committee meeting to really sit down and take a look at it and make those final edits. From there, everything will come back to the entire committee and also to the Historic Sites Board.
So if I have a couple of entries to add, I should probably provide them just for the purposes of the layout.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna need that because it could change the layout.
Yeah, well, it could change the layout if we take them out as well. One of them is that World War I plaque that's at the Algoma Conservatory. And I wonder whether we could maybe look at asking for a bylaw to designate that one. But we could talk about that at the committee level.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've also given a hard copy to Michael Birch to look at, and I'm hoping to hear back from him on that because he commented on the earlier one, so I would appreciate his input on that as well. A 6.2 is doors open, and you have a meeting, Virginia, scheduled on Wednesday next week?
Yeah, so I don't think it'll be a really long meeting, but we'll have one on May 15th. I know you've completed some outreach. I've sent letters out as well, so I was going to follow up with the organizations that I had sent letters to. I've started the tracking sheet so that we can, it's flagged in different colors, ones we still have to reach out to, ones that have confirmed pending, so that we can kind of track them color coded as we continue to do that outreach to the different properties. The Old Stone House is actually looking at purchasing a camera that would allow you to do the 3D tours, so that could be something that we can utilize. I did talk to Kathy and John who are there to see if we can produce a couple video tours to help to complement the schedule in October for those properties that may not want people coming in, but are, you know, open to sharing what their space looks like, you know, more so the private homes.
Yeah, that would be really great because we could put them on the Doors Open platform and maybe after the event put them on our Facebook page too. Yeah, wow, that's great. So 6.3 is heritage trees.
So we haven't had, we can, now that the weather is nice, we can start to go out and take measurements. So I'll be working with Tim Ladd and our forestry crew to get the measurements of those trees. One of the other pieces that I mentioned is looking to do some research. So we also have to look at the cultural and historical significance of those trees. So I know Sarah was gonna take a peek at the list. If there's any other members that might be interested in taking a tree or two to see if they can find any additional information. Some of them may come off the list relatively quickly just because of their species and age. So before we go too far, hopefully with some of those measurements, it'll give us a better idea of where we're standing.
There was a Jane's Walk on heritage trees this year and last year, and I wonder if we could ask those speakers or the people who led the walk, whether they would have anything to comment.
Yeah, sorry, Jamie, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I spoke with both of them at a launch event for Jane's Walk, so I do have both of their names, and yeah, I think they'd be a good resource in terms of history. I'll get it to you this week.
Perfect, thanks, Sam.
Yeah, they started out at Bishop-Hurst, I think, this year.
Yes, they did.
And did Simpson Street area, yeah. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Alex, you had a Jane's Walk on Sunday, eh?
I helped Joe Bumbaco put it together.
Mm-hmm.
So we did kind of like a digital piece with the walk using QR codes. And he had just unreal amount of participant attendance. And I followed up with him after, and he said he's never spoken to that many people. He got great pictures from the event too.
Oh, good.
So like with Sunny's Walk in the fall, and then having Joe do the Jane's, in having Jane's Walk kind of in the springtime, like just Heritage is looking good for the Sioux.
Alex, do you think
Hey.
Joe would be interested in recreating that walk in October?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been talking to him a lot because just for Doors Open. So, and I do have a nice big file of pictures for Doors Open too. And I'll ask Joe if he'd like to recreate that walk for October.
Great, thanks, Alex.
Thanks.
That'd be great. That should probably be almost another topic on under new business. He's also, I've asked him about there are now pictures on the Queen Street for a potential walk, and he's totally agreeable to sharing his inventory of photos. So I think he's going to be a great resource for that. So the topic of heritage trees, I could help out with the research, but I'll talk to you about it.
Jamie, maybe you and I can connect on that because
That'd be great, Sarah.
I've only just downloaded the list of 11 trees. So I'll do the preliminary look while I'm on holiday at the end of this month. I'm going to be off the last 2 weeks of May. So maybe that the week after the May long, I can connect with you and just kind of give you a preliminary idea of what I may need help researching.
That would be great. I would love that. Virginia, would another person to consult be Harvey Robbins on that topic?
Yeah, he may be interested in helping as well. So I think your timing on that, Sarah, is probably good, because if I can get our parks team and Tim out in the next couple weeks to take the measurements, that will give us additional information on which trees we should prioritize.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm going to be out of town, but so I won't be able to attend any of those site visits, but I'm certainly happy to do that when I'm back at the beginning of June, if it hasn't happened by then.
Great, thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, that timing will work out perfectly for me as well. Sorry, I can feel my throat closing in. So if we're done with Heritage 6.3, we can move on to number 7. And we have a designated heritage property grant application from the Algonquin Hotel, complete with pictures and a budget.
They also did provide multiple quotes, so
okay.
I do have that backup. So a little bit, I have had some discussions with the owners. One of the concerns, and it's been identified during the property inspections each year, is that one wall has issues with the bricks falling every year. So in speaking with his contractors, the gentlemen that are doing the brickwork, they said they really needed to start from the top down, look at addressing the roof, the drainage, and those areas where the water's getting in and causing the bricks to fall on an annual, thaw freeze cycle. So he's put the request in for $3,000 to support the work that needs to be done on the property.
Yeah, they do a beautiful job with this building. They did a paint job a couple of years ago that was amazing, and the building is I can remember inspecting it a couple of times, and they really do keep on top of it. So
That's true, Jamie. They have like a proven track record of like a strong interest in the preservation of the Algonquin. So that's good.
yeah, so the maximum amount of the grant can be 3,000, Virginia. Is that what you're saying?
It's the maximum. I didn't fill in an amount in case the committee wanted to have more discussion on it. But yeah, that would be the normal maximum amount.
Okay, does anyone else want to speak to this before we move the motion? So I'll read the motion if I if my voice keeps going, resolved that the Sault Ste. Marie Municipal Heritage Committee recommend a designated heritage property grant in the amount of, 3,000 for the cleaning, repairs to the roof and roof drainage at the Algonquin Hotel be approved, and further that payment be rendered upon submission of the paid contractors' invoices and final approval of the project by the Sault Ste. Marie Municipal Heritage Committee. Do I have a mover? Sunny has his hand up. Hannah has her hand up as well. Could Hannah second it? Does anyone want to change the dollar amount? I read out 3. Alex, hi.
No, sorry, no, I don't. I'm wondering if anyone joining us on Zoom had any opinions before we go, but I'm happy to vote as well.
So are there any further comments on this motion? So I need a mover. Oh, I think I have a mover and seconder. Let's vote. I'm sorry, I'm a terrible parliamentarian, but I'm in approval of this motion. And Hannah's hand is up, Alex's hand is up. I can't see at the table, Virginia.
Yeah, Lisa's good, yeah.
Okay, then it carried. The motion carried. Oh,
And just a note on that for some of the new committee members. Once we get the paid invoices in, we'll have a couple members of the committee go out, take a look at the work. With it being on the roof, they'll have to send us some photos as part of the application, but we have the opportunity to go out, take a look, and then when you come back, the committee or the individuals that went out will make the recommendation for me to proceed with payment. So we won't issue payment until the committee's had a chance to weigh in.
okay, and we go out and do another site inspection before? I think it's the end of the work, I think so.
And depending on the timing and how soon he can get the contractors in, if it doesn't happen till a little bit later in the year, the inspection may end up just happening as part of our normal inspections in the fall. So we'll see what the timing looks like.
Okay. So we're still under agenda item 7, new business, and 7.2 is the Northwest Company lock. Virginia, did you want to speak to this?
Yeah, so I received, Alex actually asked to have this brought forward on the agenda. I believe Alex was out and had an opportunity to take a look at it. The committee was, as you can see, a number of years ago, was looking at the law, looking at options. We were fortunate to have, at the time, STEM Engineering donated some services to provide a proposal, costing, and there was an attempt to get some fundraising done to try to secure funds for the lock. The lock is on and the property is owned by the Algoma Conservatory, so that poses a little bit of a challenge with the amount of cost to do the restoration. But then also a lot of their grants that they're writing are to maintain the building and for the services and programs that they're offering within that building. So that was one of the challenges. They did look to outside foundations, but at the time, the funding was kind of came up short. And then as time progressed, we kind of moved into COVID and everybody started scrambling to try to figure out just how to keep the doors open, especially for a lot of the organizations that, are doing programs and services that were front facing. So that's a little bit of the background, the report's in there. So there was quite a bit of work that was done providing the history, and STEM did a great job helping provide costing and some background information. Under the funding sources, those were sources that the committee was looking at. It was a draft budget. Those were not funds that were secured. So there was definitely a shortfall. We looked at having and tried to, the other piece, we did try to have it designated as a National Historic Site. In order to open up other avenues of funding. So that was a fairly lengthy process making that request in. At the time, Chris Tossell was helping try to facilitate that. It does not qualify as a National Historic Site. So that was unfortunate when we did get the correspondence back, but that was probably a good year and a half process, Jamie, I think, as we
Well,
were.
I know I was on that committee. Well, I joined that committee late in the day, and Sean Meadings was the chair. I think Sandra Hollingsworth was on it, and Harvey. And we had I did attend 2 meetings, and I thought I took notes of both, and I can only find one of them. However, we did meet with Guy Traficante at Algoma Conservatory, and he's totally on board with this, obviously. I don't remember ever seeing this detail about the funding and the revenues, so that's actually a bit of a bonus.
Yeah, those were
And it
sourced,
just dropped off the radar because we all moved on to other other things that were going on.
and the funding, those were potential requests of how they were going to try to make a budget work. Again, you know, obviously there's a significant shortfall in funds. This would all have to be updated in costing as to what it is now, so I would imagine the cost would escalate
Oh yeah.
to complete this project. But that gives a bit of a background on, you know, the work that was done. And yeah, trying to find funding sources was definitely a challenge since there's not really anything for designated properties other than our 12,000 a year.
So this is designated as a National Historic Event.
Yeah, I don't know why this has to be exclusive to us, considering its value to Canadian history. The Northwest Company is not like just, in Sault Ste. Marie, it put the country together, right? And this is pre-Canada. So who else can we reach out to? I know that there would be interested people. Does anyone have any thoughts about finding, because you're right, there's a significant gap in available funding.
Yeah. Well, would the next step be to reconvene to have, later in the fall when we're not busy with the with our 3 subcommittees, would it be an idea to reconvene the subcommittee, Virginia? And maybe look for some external members like Alex is suggesting?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, we can take a look and dig in. I think the fall's better timing for sure. Because we'll have the booklet done, Heritage Tree should be wrapped up, and we'll have both doors open. We'll have been completed, so.
Yeah, by September, the doors open work should be pretty well done, except for the event. And yeah. And I'm, having another look at this document. So Alex, is that a strategy that we defer this to a subcommittee that meets in the fall?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Do you think Joe Babacco would be interested, Alex?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, that was one thought I had for a member. Or for input at least, consulting, I don't know. Okay. That would be great. Sorry, I'm just scrolling back to get to the agenda. Okay. So that was 7.2 Northwest Company Law. And any further discussion on that topic? Okay, we're at number 8, which is correspondence. And Virginia, you've heard from Clyde Bridge under 8.1, who lives at 13 Summit.
correct. So Mr. Bridge reached out. He's interested, he's looking to do some more work on his home. And he's interested in finding out a little bit more about the property, possibly what it looked like, because he'd like to do some restoration and he'd like to try to keep it in with the historical feel. So he was looking to see if one of the committee members might be interested in helping do additional research, obtaining photos, just so it gives him some guidance as he moves forward. The property is not designated, but it's in one of the locally significant areas, so he's really yeah, would like to maintain that heritage integrity of the property.
Okay, we didn't register that one, eh? The one next door, number 11 is registered. And I think number 15, but for some reason, number 13 is not registered.
Yeah, I went back to her notes.
This is this originally was the Sir James Dunn house. It's Sir James Dunn's second house. His first house was at Three Summit, which is now the,
Is it 90 Ontario Avenue? That's the
yeah, the convent building, the whole property over there. Yeah, that, So he went from there to this house. Then he lived in Wawa also. Anyway, yeah, I love this idea. Has anyone, Alex, did you talk about this earlier in the meeting? I can't remember, or was it Sarah?
I just know that one just through school actually that Dr. Hergott used to own that house, and his daughter, is a colleague of mine at the Algoma District School Board. She works at a local school, and I will reach out to her because I know that I suspect that Dr. Hergott would be able to provide a bunch of background information.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that because I know his father-in-law lived at the corner of Summit and Pym. And yeah, anyway, that's another story. Okay, interesting. I didn't know that.
So I'll reach out to her and just see if we can
Okay.
find out more, and I'll send it forward.
So Virginia, does somebody need to, do you want me to call Clyde Bridge and talk to him? Or was,
Yeah, if you'd like to, or I can loop you in on, I can loop both you and Alex in on an email string with Mr. Bridge.
okay,
And then from there, you can start having that kind of conversation, and as we find more information, we can share that with him.
Yeah, I'm interested in, my cousin lives next door to him on that street, so yeah,
Okay, great.
interesting. Okay. I'm just trying to remember why I have to go back on my notes to see whether when we did the registered properties, why we skipped 13. And I might have something that I can find that explains that, but yeah. He's not looking to designate it, is he? He's just asking for photos.
No, he didn't ask about designation at this point. He said he's working on a master plan of sorts for the exterior of his property. And he'd like to look at making sure that it's kind of in line with the historical significance and keeping in with the neighborhood. So just wanted to find out that additional information as he starts to develop.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if the property goes south to Ontario, whether he's got, whether the depth of the lot goes all the way down the hill to Ontario. Because properties do, so yeah, interesting. I don't know.
Oh, I can find that out.
yeah, Sal can take a look
Yeah.
and see that if the property moves that way,
Mhm.
or what the lot size is like.
Yeah.
Okay, I will connect you and Jamie with Mr. Bridge,
Okay. All right, so
or Alex and Jamie.
before we adjourn, does anyone have additional comments before we adjourn? Oh, sorry. So our next meeting is scheduled for June the 4th at noon. And at which point I hope to not have this cold. This has got to go. So we need someone to move adjournment. I see Hannah's hand up. Thank you, Hannah. And Lisa seconded it. Thank you, Lisa. That would be great. And do we need to vote on this motion, Virginia?
Yes, please.
Adjourn, that the committee now adjourns. So let's vote. Okay, looks like Hannah voted and I voted.
Yeah,
Okay, looks like we carried it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Yeah.
team. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Jamie. I will, Jamie, it's Sarah. I'll email you.
Yeah,
the
that'd be
Tuesday
great.
or Wednesday after May Long.
Yeah, that'd be great. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks,
Bye,
Jamie.
everybody.
I'm back then as well, so the timing works out really well for me. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.